Thank you, Dr. George, for having me here, and thank you, everyone. You probably thought you were coming to an exciting lecture with Dr. George, and instead you get a boring speaker as myself. No, but the reason I'm here is because I'm passionate about helping students. Students who have mental conditions, physical conditions, and or stress be successful in the classroom using one simple breathing technique. That's it. One simple technique. Now, how many of you can breathe? Everybody? He was slow to answer, so if you didn't answer, we might need to call the ambulance. But if you can breathe, you can do this. It's that simple. Now, I heard some of you talking about papers, and well, not papers, but exams and other things that were coming up. And as a student coming into a university, into any kind of school, many of you thought that you were signing up. If you come to Webster, you thought you were probably signing up for the counseling program, correct? And you signed up for this class. This is what? The fundamentals of counseling foundation. So you probably thought that you were signing up for that. However, that's completely wrong. You did not sign up at Webster in this course. You signed up for stress. You signed up to have stress from papers, exams, presentations, and student debt.
Yes, so true.
We have someone right here who can relate. Can the people who are also kind of at other areas, can you relate? Can you hear me okay? Okay, you're probably on mute, so I would assume that maybe you can. Give a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay, we're good. We're good. So that's what you really signed up for, is all this stress. You thought, oh, I'm coming in to get my degree. I'm coming in to Webster. It's going to be awesome. And then you get here like, oh, no. You show up at one of your first classes, and then you get this long syllabus of all these chapters. I'm hearing people talking about books and open books and whether it's closed or open, and you got to read all this information, get it into your brain, and then get it out on an exam. And it's tough. And it's stressful. And so as a student, if you do not have any mental or physical conditions and you're coming in and being exposed to stress with nothing else, that's difficult. But think of it as layers. Think of it if you're coming in with a mental condition. Maybe you have a pre-existing diagnosis of depression, anxiety, PTSD, whatever it might be. ADD, attention deficit disorder. And then you come in and you're exposed to having to take a test, having to do a presentation, having to do a paper. And then you're getting these statements of how much student debt you're accumulating. What does that do to your condition? What does that do to your mental condition? Does it exacerbate symptoms?
Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So you think of it as layers. So somebody who comes in with no mental or physical conditions, they're exposed to stress, that's difficult. So then you come in, you've got a mental condition, you're exposed to stress, you've got another layer of problems. Now let's just say that you come in, you have depression, and then you have a physical condition. Maybe you have a chronic pain condition. Maybe you have diabetes. Maybe you have MS. And so when you have any of those physical conditions and you're exposed to stress, to Dr. George's exams, maybe a presentation, paper. Do you have papers in here?
Yes.
Paper. You have presentations?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So you've got all that. What does that do to your physical conditions, your physical symptoms? It exacerbates them, right? And that's difficult. So you come in and you're like, oh God, I got physical stuff going on, I got mental stuff going on, I've got the stress from Dr. George's class. This is tough. And I see a lot of people, kind of nodding their head like, yeah, this is definitely something that impacts you. All right? And so you're not alone. Now, the National Association of Mental Illness, they indicate that 1 in 5 students have a mental condition. And the American College Health Association states that depression and anxiety are 2 of the most common mental conditions that students face. Depression and anxiety. So they're right up there on the list. And so we know 1 in 5 students have a mental condition. So we have, I don't know how many people who are kind of joining us today. You know, we've got what, 3, 6, 7, 9. So we almost 10. So that's almost like 2 people. And that's just conditions that have been diagnosed. And that's not including people who haven't been diagnosed with anything. And especially guys we're the ones who, we don't want to go talk. We're not the ones that want to go and say, you know, oh, I got this going on, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling anxious. So we go undiagnosed many times. Women often are kind of over-report more often than what men do. And so they're expressive, they communicate, but guys were like, nah, we're just going to keep it to ourselves. So before I go any further, let me just back up and give you a little bit of information about myself and where I've come from. I have a PhD in clinical psychology and a master's in psychology from the California School of Professional Psychology in Fresno, California. Anybody know where Fresno is?
California.
Yeah, it's in California, right. And it's right smack between LA and San Francisco. And so before that, I went to Rutgers University. And what state is Rutgers in? I know they're muted. What's that?
Jersey?
Jersey! That's right, the Scarlet Knights. So I have a bachelor's in psychology from there. And I have, good night, I don't know how many years of experience in mental health. I started volunteering at PD Mental Health back in 1992 with adults who have serious and persistent chronic mental illness, schizophrenia, and that's kind of where it started. And since my degrees, I've worked in inpatient, outpatient, forensics, I've worked in student college counseling centers, I've worked in prison. Anybody heard of Corcoran Prison out in California? It's where they house the famous, probably the most famous inmate in the world, Charles Manson,
Wow.
who died a year or so ago. He was there when I was working there. I saw him a couple times. I did not work with him, but I did see him, and he was only about this tall, and he was about this big around. He was about as big as your pinky, sir.
Wow.
And so he was just very frail. But anyway, that's beside the point. And so I have a lot of experience in inpatient, outpatient, all these different settings. And currently, I'm a licensed clinical psychologist here in Columbia in South Carolina, and I work for Disability Determination Services. So anytime someone applies for disability due to mental conditions, so we have a team of psychologists, and I'm one who's on that team, and we'll rate that. So it could be traumatic brain injury. We have a lot of veterans with PTSD, anxiety, depression, learning disorders, mental retardation, or it's called mild ID, intellectual disabilities now. And so anything that falls under the mental umbrella, so we will rate these cases and identify whether they kind of meet the criteria for being selected for disability. In addition to that, I've been teaching at Webster for, goodness, about 13 years. And I know we had somebody from Greenville on with us. And so I started, hey, there's Greenville. I started up in Greenville. It's been a while. And I've been teaching in the counseling program for that long. And one of probably the most common course that I teach is group counseling. And I also teach online as well. And then in addition to doing that, I'm a life coach and a mental performance coach working with professional athletes, specifically in the sport of motocross. And so I work with some high-profile guys, and I really enjoy that. And so all that I've done is kind of beside the point, because before I got there, I was sitting right where you are. And I started out in college on the wrong foot. You know, you may have thought, well, you know, oh, he has a PhD and this, he must have kind of known his path early on. It wasn't like that at all. In fact, I graduated at the back of my high school class, and I ended up going to Greenville Technical College, and we got Greenville there. I went to Greenville Tech, and the reason I ended up there is because my dad said, hey, son, you've graduated high school, now what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. And he said, how about going to college? And I said, Dad, did you see my rank in high school where I graduated? Have you seen my SAT scores? And he says, oh, I don't care. If you're going to live at home, you're going to go to school. You're going to do something. So I went to Greenville Tech, took some classes, passed some classes, and it wasn't until my first intro to psychology course that I actually had something that piqued my interest. I had an instructor who showed me how to study, which was kind of one of the big pieces that was missing for me at the time. So I was able to bring up my grades. But what I did not have was confidence going forward. What I didn't have was coping skills for depression that I had, for anxiety, and for attention deficit disorder. I struggled, and I almost did not get through undergrad, and I almost did not get through graduate school. And all of this came crashing down in the summer of '92. I remember it was a hot summer day. I think it was a Saturday. I don't even remember what class it was, but I was trying to cram for an exam, and it was very hot. And I remember I had a t-shirt and shorts on, and I just all of a sudden felt this overwhelming kind of pain in my chest. I felt this tightness. I felt this sensation that I never had before, and it scared me. And I took off to the ER. I'm driving myself, which is probably not a good idea. I didn't know what was going on. And I get to the ER and I'm thinking I'm having a heart attack or something. And so after several hours, they ended up sending me home. And it wasn't a heart condition. It wasn't a heart attack. It was a panic attack. It was stress. I was under so much stress from having to do exams and having to do presentations, from student debt that was piling up, and it became overwhelming. I did not have the coping skills. And so I kind of limped along until I got into graduate school. And luckily in graduate school, I started to learn some coping skills. And then I went to therapy, and I learned even more coping skills. And one of those coping skills was how to utilize breathing. And so breathing is, these techniques that I've used, not only for myself, but also with clients, help make a difference to the people that I worked with. So I've seen it in working with clients and an inpatient who had chronic mental illness, who had debilitating anxiety or depression, could not function in society. They were suicidal. And so I know that that breathing technique worked with them because I used it. I used it with clients on an outpatient basis that I worked with. I used it with students at a counseling center. And I also used it with professional athletes. And I've seen that it's worked regardless of where these clients are, regardless of the environment, the circumstances, the conditions that they were struggling with. I saw it happen. Since I've been teaching here at Webster for about 13 years, I've had students come to me on breaks, after class, before class, and they'll say, Dr. Laskis, can I talk to you? I'm like, yeah. And students would share with me, hey, I'm struggling with this, struggling with that. And these weren't students who were identified by the school as needing accommodations. They were flying under the radar, and they were struggling. And so with my own experience, having that panic attack, thought it was a heart attack, using a skill to help clients in different settings, seeing students suffer, I thought I need to devote more time to helping students because I barely made it through. And you guys are investing a lot of effort and energy. You're making a sacrifice. You're away from your family. You're away from your friends. You work long days. And you don't have to suffer. And you certainly don't have to suffer like I did. Now, what's happening in your body when you're under stress is we have this umbrella of the autonomic nervous system. And within that, you have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. The sympathetic nervous system is kind of your flight or fight response mechanism to when we're under stress. So when our bodies are under stress, that whole mechanism gets triggered. That sympathetic nervous system gets triggered. The floodgates open up. Hormones rush in. Your eyes will dilate. Your heart rate will increase. Your breathing will change. You will feel constriction in your muscles, tension in your head, and it's preparing you to fight or flight. And this is a mechanism that's been built in going back thousands of years. It allowed us to get to where we are to survive. And see, it really helped us when we were all living out in the woods or wherever, and we come upon an animal or something that could eat us. And even today, if you like to hike and you go up into the mountains up in Tennessee, my mom lives there around Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and they have a lot of black bears there. And they just kind of wander in around the house and stuff. So if you're walking around in Tennessee and you come upon a bear, what's going to happen? That sympathetic nervous system is going to get triggered. You're going to go into that fight or flight. Your eyes are going to dilate. Your muscles are going to tense up. Your breathing is going to change. Your heart rate's going to go up. Now, hopefully with a bear, you do not run because that will trigger their response to eat you. So you don't want to do that. You certainly don't want to stand and fight them, although you, sir, may be able to fight them. But you probably don't want to. It's not a good idea. The thing that they say with a bear is for you to stand there, get big, and make a loud noise. Try to pretend that you're bigger than they are, and hopefully they back off. But our initial instinct is to run or fight. Now, maybe you have a big exam or a presentation coming up. That same scenario triggers that same response that you would get being in the woods. The fight or flight system kicks in. So you have to come up here and do a presentation in front of the class. And you're sweating, oh God. Your heart starts racing, your eyes dilate, right? Your pupils are dilating, your muscles are tensing up, you can't breathe. And then you get brain fog and you're like, uh-oh, what did I just prepare for? Because I can't remember anything. Sorry, Dr. George, I just don't remember. It's the fight or flight. Now, you won't be able to use that as an excuse because she's going to say, oh, I'm sorry, that's on you, it's not me. So, but anyway, we know that this is what's going on with us when we get stressed. But let me show you this technique and how to take that fight or flight and flip it around and turn it off. So this simple breathing technique is called abdominal breathing or belly breathing. Now, under that autonomic nervous system that I talked about earlier, so we got the sympathetic, which triggers the fight or flight. We have that parasympathetic nervous system. The belly breathing will trigger that other system, which calms you down. So the breathing will help you to get oxygen to all the different areas of your body and your brain. It will help your muscles relax. It'll help your thoughts clear. It triggers the calming response. And that's what it does. So everybody, first let me kind of demonstrate it, and then we're going to go through this together, and hopefully you guys can join in as well. Is you take a breath in through your nose, and you just count to 3. 1, 2, 3 as you breathe in, and then you would hold it for 3. 1, 2, 3, and then you exhale for 3. And you exhale out your mouth. So you would breathe in through your nose, you would hold it, and then you would breathe out through your mouth. Now, what you should pay attention to is where are you breathing into? Okay, it's called belly breathing. So when you breathe in, your shoulders should not lift up, your chest should not push out, your belly should push out. So we have 2 areas of diaphragm. We have an upper and we have a lower. That lower cavity is much larger than the upper. The majority of time, many people just breathe with this upper cavity, and it's much smaller. The lower cavity is much larger. And so if you take, everybody put their hand, you can put 1 or 2 hands on your belly, and just breathe in as just much as you can. But don't get any air up into here. Try to just push your belly straight out. It's a little bit difficult because you're probably not used to doing it. So just try to think of it. Imagine that you're pushing your hands. You want your hand to literally just push out. So when you put your hand on your stomach, as you're pushing your stomach out, breathe in through your nose. It takes a little bit of practice. So you're going to want to breathe in through your nose. 1, 2, 3. I see your chest is, and your shoulders are lifting up. Mm-hmm. So you're using an upper diaphragm. Takes practice. Okay, so when you breathe in, your stomach should push out. It's going to fill that lower diaphragm. Now, that lower diaphragm is like a balloon that hardly gets used. How many of you have had the task of blowing up balloons for a birthday party? Yeah, we've all been there. And when you get a brand new balloon out of the pack, is it easy or difficult to get air in it?
Difficult.
It's difficult. So what do you have to do in order to get that air in?
Yeah.
You got to stretch it, right? Or you take a pull on it, stretch it. And so then you're blowing. And then after you blow it up and then you let the air out. And then you try to blow it up again. It gets easier, right? Because it's already kind of stretched out. So that's what you're doing when you practice belly breathing. So you're breathing in through your nose. 1, 2, 3. You're holding it, and then you're exhaling out through your mouth. 1, 2, 3. Now, let's all do this together. So we're going to lead you in, and I want you to take it a little bit deeper. And by taking it deeper is you close your eyes, and I want you to focus on your breath, the air that comes in through your nose, and what that feels like. And just imagine kind of the sensation that you get of the air coming in through your nose. Imagine that you could see it and where it's going. Okay, so everybody close their eyes. I'm going to lead you into it. So I want you to breathe. Put your hands on your stomach. Do that belly breath, breathing in through your nose. 1, 2, 3. Hold it. 1, 2, 3. Exhale slowly out your mouth. We're going to do it 2 more times. Breathe in, eyes closed. 1, 2, 3. In with your nose. Hold it. Breathe out through your mouth. 1, 2, 3. And again, the last time, breathe in through your nose. 1, 2, 3. Hold it. 1, 2, 3. Out through your mouth. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now you can open your eyes. Does anybody notice any sensation within their body? Do you notice any tingling, any lightheadedness, any kind of sensation? And that's okay if you don't.
I know I'm doing
If you're getting more oxygen in through this method than you typically do using kind of your upper diaphragm, that extra oxygen, many people will report that they feel a little lightheaded, feel a little tingly. And the reason that is because this oxygen is flooding into your blood. So your blood is getting more oxygen. And that blood goes to all the different parts of your body with that extra oxygen. It's going to your brain, it's going to all your muscle groups. And so it triggers a relaxed response. It gives more oxygen to your muscles, more oxygen to your brain. So this is triggering that parasympathetic nervous system. So think of it like a faucet. In the morning when you go into the bathroom and you turn on the water, you got a hot and a cold, right? You think of turning the hot water on as kind of that sympathetic nervous system. You know, hot water's rushing in because you're in that fight or flight. When you start your belly breathing, this abdominal breathing, what it does is it shuts off that hot water and turns on the cold. And so it does the opposite. And so it calms the body, it calms the mind. And you can actually see results of this. How many people of you have a Fitbit? One of those watches, anybody? All right, some people do. And so on the Fitbit, you'll have something that monitors your heart rate. You can actually utilize this breathing technique and watch your heart rate go down. It will also lower your blood pressure. Some people get really anxious before they go to a medical doctor. They go in their primary care physician for their yearly exam, and you have to get the blood pressure taken. And sometimes you go in and they're like, oh, you got high blood pressure. Well, yeah, at that moment maybe you do, but maybe you didn't right before you went in. So I like to encourage people is to relax before you go in to get your blood pressure. Sometimes walking into a doctor's office, you get triggered. The smell, just that antiseptic kind of smell. It's cold in there. Just all the smells, sights, sounds, whatever it might be. It's enough for a lot of people to get them anxious. And so you're getting worked up and you're getting stressed. And then they go and take your blood pressure. But if they were to take your blood pressure 20 minutes earlier while you were sitting in the parking lot, it may be very different. Maybe. So you can actually see the difference by using this. Now, many times these mental and physical conditions can hold us hostage. We're often worried about some guy or guys out in the bushes waiting to jump us and put a gun to our head and control us and do whatever they want. But the odds of that happening are very slim. But the odds of us holding ourselves hostage is pretty good. Meaning we may have a mental condition, we may have a physical condition, we may be triggered easily by stress, easily by papers. Somebody mentions papers, exams, presentations. I'm already triggered. And we're holding ourselves hostage. We're the ones putting ourselves in this fight or flight. And is that any way to live? No. Not at all. So we need to kind of forget about, okay, yeah, there's somebody out there who wants to get me. No, you're getting yourself. We often do that. It's just people. And it's students. We're in a stressful environment. So let me ask you, if you had a choice, if you had an option, when Dr. George has her next exam, and would you rather show up with high anxiety levels, stress, with the sympathetic nervous system flooding your system with hormones, your eyes are dilated, your chest is tense, your muscles are tense, you can't breathe, you can't think, and you have a foggy, it's just foggy. Are you going to take an exam like that? Or would you like to show up to Dr. George's exam where you feel relaxed, you have a low heart rate, your blood pressure is low, your mind is clear, your muscles are relaxed? Guess which one of those scenarios is going to give you the best chance for having a better grade?
My mind is clear and I'm relaxed.
Exactly. In 2005, they did a study, and it's called the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine. And they found that yogic breathing, which is very similar to what I just shared with you, it can balance the autonomic nervous system, alleviate anxiety, alleviate depression, everyday stress, PTSD, and many medical illnesses. Dr. Dean Ornish, if any of you have heard of him, he's a cardiologist, he's a Harvard University medical fellow. He uses breathing techniques with his patients, with his clients, in his program. Now get this, it's part of a bigger program to not only keep people from getting heart disease, but here's the interesting thing. He incorporates breathing as part of an entire program to reverse heart disease. Now, this isn't some guy sitting in his basement in Pickens somewhere. Anybody know where Pickens is? It's up in the upstate? Yeah, right? Or Walhalla, or Seneca, or Columbia, or Greenville. No, this is Dr. Dean Ornish, who's a cardiologist, Harvard-trained clinical fellow, who says that you can reverse heart disease.
Wow.
And one of the factors is breathing. It's amazing what it can do. Now, everyone is going to tell you that this breathing technique is something that you should use when you get stressed, or something right before that you use before an exam, or before you have an upcoming event that triggers you. How I'm a little bit different, what I'm saying is that you should incorporate this into your daily routine. That when you get up in the morning, that you should take a couple of deep breaths. You should close your eyes. And you should utilize this breathing technique. After you have your breakfast, go back into it again. While you're driving, don't close your eyes, but you can breathe. Take deeper breaths. So incorporate the deeper breathing, the belly breathing, in throughout your day. So I call it the prescription medication time-released program. So when you're taking medication that's time-released, what does it do to your hormone levels or to your blood levels throughout the day? Keeps them constant, right? So if you're utilizing this breathing technique throughout the entire day, you're not going to have these ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. You're going to stay more consistent. Other people are using it like the ice pack theory, where, well, you're out, you get injured in a physical event, maybe you stumble, you fall down the steps, or you're playing some sport and you hurt something, you go to the freezer and you grab the ice pack. Which, in relation to, well, I have an upcoming event, I got an exam in Dr. George's class, I'm going to use this breathing. Yeah, you can use it that way. But what I'm saying is to incorporate this into your daily routine from the morning until the time you go to bed, throughout the day, so that you maintain constant. Now, I know some of you are thinking, come on, Dr. Laskis. Sounds too good to be true. It sounds too difficult. And you may say, oh, I've been breathing the way I've been breathing since the day I was born. Well, you know, I also thought those things until I started using it with clients, until I started using it on myself. And I even use this with my 6-year-old.